Hello, my name is Katie O'Dare, and I'm the Associate Dean for Graduate Student Life at Boston College. Welcome to Veritas at Vinum. Veritas at Vinum is a conversation series that features prominent faculty and administrators sharing their stories, how they began their careers in higher education, the people and events that had an impact on their professional development, and what it means to them personally to work at a Jesuit and Catholic university. Archived conversations can be viewed at the Church in the 21st Century Center website. Thank you, and enjoy the conversations.
I'm happy to be here, and as Katie said, I'm going to talk about my career in higher education, particularly how I came to Boston College and then what it means to me to be here at a Jesuit Catholic university. And my academic career is really fairly simple because in the outline form, it's 42 years, half at Boston College. So there's a in the transition to why I came here, there's a story there. Anyway, my very first position, though, I joined the faculty at Mount St. Mary's College in Los Angeles at age 26. And I was there for 17 years, including being in charge of the programs with 500 students and 50 faculty, et cetera. So I got off to a kind of a running start. And I want to just highlight a couple of things from that part of my career that they're not necessarily unique, but they were my experiences that were incredibly enriching, and you can see the building of the plan, you know, all the way along, with the unseen hand of God in it all. First of all, I am a nurse. I practice nursing. And I had had the wonderful opportunity of working in several of the large hospitals run by the religious community, Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, who also run Mount St. Mary's College, where I did my baccalaureate degree. And I knew fairly early that I would be destined to teach. It was fairly unusual that I went into my graduate program very young at that point in time. And I was also very fortunate to be with one of the real key thinkers in the field of nursing. So, you know, if you think of the top person in a field and then you put a 24-year-old like me there, you know, I literally got a running start. But some of the ideas, in the first class, she said, well, we have to clearly define what nursing is. I read in this book this wonderful word, adaptation. I think that's what nursing is all about. So boldly I say that. And she said, and what do you mean by that? So now I spent 40 years describing that idea. And then also that's why the theme of this, the Veritas, becomes important to me too in this career. So I end up at this college to teach. And at the first faculty meeting, the faculty said, we really want to revise our curriculum. And I always say this is before curriculum revision was endemic, you know. But they were really very forward thinking, because this is the late 60s, and they're talking about, you know, instead of having a medically based model, we need to have a strong nursing base, but we have to clearly describe our concept of nursing. So here I am, fresh out of my master's program, very young, and I say, of the women in the room at that time, there were 12, 10 had taught me as an undergraduate just before, okay. So I say, well, I think what it has to do with is, et cetera. Well, that went over, no way, no way. But as a young teacher, I began helping to organize my classes with some of my ideas, et cetera. And a strange thing happened at the end of that year. I became very seriously ill. I was in bed for an entire year, and it was just dizziness, but I couldn't even lift my head. 12 years later, they removed a tumor off my vestibular nerve. But in any case, they managed to train me back on my feet and bring me back to school to teach. Okay. So I come back, and the faculty say to me, now what were you saying about that? We've been spinning our wheels a whole year. So if you can imagine being given the laboratory to develop your brand fresh ideas out of a very young master's student. So at the same time, there's my mentor down at UCLA. I should explain the geography. This campus is on the top of a hill in Brentwood, California, and across Sunset and down the road is University of California at Los Angeles. And in fact, when the sisters bought the top of this hill in the 30s, those crazy nuns out there, and 40, 50 years later, the Gettys bought the hill next to us. So, but anyway, we built the road to get up there too. So, and that's part of my unique experience. Let me say that as the second part, women leaders. I mean, I was working in hospitals where the administrator was the brightest and the best of our sisters. And the physicians had to put, and then the community administration would come over to approve budgets. So I lived in a world where women were in charge, and strong women, and competent women. And they bought that property, they built those buildings, and after we lost one of the buildings in the Bel Air fire of 1961, they rebuilt, and I know the president, she was the one who founded that nursing department and was then president. She'd walk through that construction site at night, inspecting it, etc. I mean, these were really women leaders. And they, I have a picture of the first graduating class in nursing. So, and I was showing it as part of how education developed in the United States. It's the first baccalaureate program in nursing in California in 1948. And UCLA started a year later. But the picture has 5 women in it. And someone said that could be someone could question the historicity of that, because yes, there's an Irish woman in it, but there's a Black, Hispanic, and Oriental in it. So, and this was it. So this was the kind of leadership that we had. Those people were handpicked and made huge contributions to nursing. So now I have to tell you, when later I did a postdoc at University of California at San Francisco, and so bumping up against the medical establishment at that large medical center was my first experience of the male-female thing in leadership in nursing. I mean, I'd heard about it, but I had had no experience of that. You know, so that was, I would say, is a great experience, you know, as a young person to really have incredible role models. And also, I was 31 years old when I became head of the department. So therefore, and carrying, as I said, these huge responsibilities. And the things I liked about leadership at that time were the ability to help others grow. That's probably the most exciting part about it. And the same way that people had really fostered my growth in a small women's, mainly liberal arts campus, but by that time a nursing program that had taken over half of the campus, it really is the opportunity to you know, use the best of who you are to bring out the best of other people. And so to be honed in that early, and especially, as I said, with the supports and the role models around, was a great experience. There is a story. So there are times when you don't always see eye to eye with administration, and right now I cannot remember what the issue was, but the issue got to the point where on a Saturday, I lived off campus at a distance. I wrote a proposal on a typewriter, my friends. And the proposal was to secede from the school, the college, and become an institute. And I was going to take this to the Board of Trustees. So I slid the letter under the president's door. I had an appointment on Monday morning. My point is that I was raised in an environment where you handle things as directly as possible, you know, and, you know, we dealt with the issues, whatever they were, but it was just a great experience. And then well, do you know they got these new things called neuroimaging, and they found that bloomin' tumor I had while I'd been in bed for so 12 years later, then I had the surgery and had it removed. So in any case, which was an experience in itself. And I had this, well, because my spiritual life is very much a part of who I am, so I go under anesthesia, into my hands, your hands, O Lord, I commend my spirit. I woke up in the recovery room, I thought, what? It was a huge disappointment, But you know what? Again, you follow this hand of providence along here. At that point, I did go back to work within a couple of months, but it was very difficult. And especially in administration, one of the things I had was one-sided hearing loss. It was during the time when students began for the first time to have grievances, etc. So you had these hearings, and or you were chairing a faculty meeting. One of the most important things are the undertones. But if you have one-sided hearing loss, you have to filter the sound to get one thing at a time. So we had symbols that I would go like that. Now, one at a time, please. I'm not getting any of it. It's just noise, you see. So, and then I struggled through that year and then decided I'd never had a sabbatical, so take a sabbatical. So I did. And then, of course, the person who took the position said, well, yeah, I'll take it for 2 years. Ha, that left. So then I went back as a scholar in residence. And then I applied for my postdoc at that time. In other words, if you could get along without me for a year, oh boy. I loved administration, but my real calling was to be a professor. And so that was how I then moved to San Francisco and did a very well-funded Robert Wood Johnson postdoc, and then stayed and did 2 more years of clinical research. In the meantime, my writing had increased immensely, and speaking, etc. And Boston College invited me to come here as a consultant to the starting of their doctoral program. So I thought, fine, I flew out here, gave them my 2 cents, and went home. And then, by the time the program got approved, they sent me a flyer and say, now here's the position we wrote for you. I said, moved 3,000 miles from anybody I know? I don't think so. Well, I had a colleague who gave me the very best advice. She said, ask what a minimum commitment is. And very wise. And so I asked the then dean, and she said, well, to make it worth our while, 3 years. I just told you this is my 21st year here, so the match was very good. One thing I wanted to mention too, I had started the title of this series, the Veritas. One thing that became important to me as I was looking at my work in nursing was the philosophical underpinnings of it. And I began to see differences in my work and other scholars, and I finally came to the point of view that I did not share the relativistic view of others. Therefore, I had to articulate what the opposite of that was. I wasn't entirely satisfied with humanism, so I coined a new term, veritivity, from Veritas, you see. So, and that, the first manuscript on that was actually written in the computer room over here while I was getting an apartment to live here, you see. So that was my transition here. But the opportunity to help start the PhD program here was wonderful. I had actually helped start a summer master's program at the University of Portland. The quality of our students, the intellectual challenge was wonderful. And to this day, in some interview I gave, I have this line where they ask, the question is, so what is your most important accomplishment? And my answer is, that is yet to come, and it will be done by one of my students. So I get a lot of calls and emails, and I mean a really lot. And this one person says to me over the phone, so what is it? I said, no, that's the point. We don't know. But anyway, what is the most important thing to me about being at Boston College? I would say it's the idea that here I can be who I am, because my person and my profession are the same. My commitment to ministry is what I do daily, which is the life that I live. And there are all kinds of ways in which, you know, as I say, the match is very good. The ability to work among people who have the same commitment to creating good in society, you know, that is just huge. I wasn't a California girl in that I was out on the beaches, but I was in that I was at farm worker movement meetings all the time. I stayed on the outside. I was the person that they contacted. I did not go to jail. My friend was in jail with Dorothy Day, but I was the one on the outside. You know, you have teams the way they work these things. And, you know, and, oh, I have a niece who's being assigned, her husband is being assigned to a place, and it's near nowhere. I said, wait a minute, no, it isn't. That's right near the farm workers' headquarters in Tehachapi, and that's where Caesar's house was, and that's where the sisters would just walk in and out. We founded the first child care for him. Then groups of us fought for the first way for them to go to the bathroom in the fields. Don't you think we would have had a little self-interest and be able to do that? But so this commitment goes way back, you know, in my life, and I am every year thrilled and excited at the numbers of our students who go off to service projects, well prepared, and really learn from them and come back and share. It's an inspiration to me, and it makes me very proud to be a part of this whole project. The third theme here would also be the notion of faith in science. It is has always been extremely important to me. I told you my postdoc work was actually in neuroscience nursing, not because I had one brain tumor and then later another one, but that's the thing. No, yes, right. One tumor grew on the 8th cranial nerve and the next one grew on the 9th cranial nerve. I don't have the disease of multiple intracranial tumors. And I say, well, that's more than one. What's that? I don't know. Well, anyway, so, but I did not have deficits the second time, but that's not why I did my postdoc in the area. But because as an undergraduate student in anatomy and physiology, I was just really taken by, I was also in metaphysics at the same time, my class, never mind the uncaused cause, etc. But the nervous system was the proof of the existence of God to me, you know. And then when I'm trying to study holism in nursing, the thinking, feeling person, you see, etc. And then I'm trying to put these values under it related to veritivity, that is a rootedness in the oneness of a common belief and a common purposefulness, you see. So the purposefulness of society, and we are all moving toward the same end, all of that becomes very important to all of my teaching, writing, and speaking, etc. But the following to a conclusion, that notion of the faith and science, I also had opportunities here that I think I would have never had anywhere else, because this tight-knit scientific scholarly community in this whole Boston area, in every discipline, not just nursing, but in addition, Jim Skian, who some of you know, he had started the Desjardins retreats, and frankly, I just needed a praying community, and so I took those retreats a couple of times, and then he co-led with a Episcopal woman priest who's an astronomer chemist, and she had founded the Faith and Science Exchange at that time of the Boston Theological Institute. So at a different point, they needed another token RC, Roman Catholic, and so, and woman scientist. So my neural credentials, I got on that board, but that is the most incredible group of people. I had been to many meetings and conferences in the mosque in Wayland long before 9/11. I felt badly for my friends who had to spend so much time doing so much public talking right afterwards, etc. But we have put on some incredible programs, and some of them have actually been on campus here. So the notion of being able to deal with the level of students we have, with the all of the disciplines here, all with the focus of this institution, And then for me, the connections to this broader faith and science group. So people of different faith with strong science backgrounds, incredible experience. So I want to close just so I can converse with one of Jim Skehan's quotes. And I have to tell you one little secret about this. I used it on a slide. And the point I was making was faith and science. And it was, at a speech in Shia, Colombia. And I found the slide because I really wanted this quote, but I had his name, but I didn't have the year under it because I wanted his discipline under it, and I never do that. So I had to find the blooming thing. And but it was actually an interview with the Chronicle. And so we found it. And so, because I was then putting it into a publication. Okay. So I just want to close with saying this is why it's important to me, because I am here at Boston College among people who say things like this. In fact, he liked it so much and he couldn't find it. Then when I found it, he was saying, I said, Jim, that's what came out of your mouth when they asked you a question. So anyway, he was thrilled. He said, you made my day. And I thought I was burdening him, but I found it. So this is why I like to be here. If you look at a beautiful sunset, or how mountains are formed, or observe how the continents move, you can view it either as science or as God speaking to you, or both. I do both. What I do as a scientist is no different from what I do listening to the cosmic word of God. Thank you.